The next item is number 3, approval of Plancon Part E submission for the Boyertown Area Senior High. The information is the district commissioned EI Associates from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania to proceed with the design of renovations, additions to the Boyertown Area Senior High School. The administration is requesting approval to submit Plancon Part E with all the required details of the design development phase to the state. The recommendation is that the Board of School Directors approve the Plancon E materials and authorize administration and architect, EI Associates, to submit the design development drawings and building specifications with the Plancon Part E forms related to the renovation and addition construction project at the Boyertown Area Senior High School to the Pennsylvania Department of Education.
Hartford moves. Thank you. Are there any questions or comments about Plancon E? Mr. Alcier?
Yes, if we could also have an overview of E, please.
First up, E includes all of the documents that are very similar to Plancon D, and I'd ask, we have the architect with us here this evening, Bart Barnard, if you could come to the microphone and address what exactly, in addition to the documents, or what the documents include, plus what in addition Plancon E requires.
Plancon E is the second design phase of the Plancon project. Plancon Part B was a schematic design. Plancon E is design development. Over the past several months, we have been meeting with the high school administration and all of the high school staff, looking at each of the different departments and doing layouts, looking at their program requirements for the inside of the building. We've also looked at some of the site requirements and requirements for zoning and other exterior requirements for the building. These ingredients have been put together into a set of design development drawings. As we talked about at the work sessions, one of the last components that we needed to resolve as part of that was the mechanical system for the building. And in our meetings today, we determined that we would be using a geothermal heating and cooling system, or make a recommendation to the board that that's the direction that we would go with the project, with the full support of the district administration and staff working on the project. So as part of that, that would be submitted to the Department of Education as the design development documents. We would then hold a Plancon E review with the Department of Education. That would involve the district administration, and then the board will receive a letter from the Department of Education approving the design development documents, and that would then be entered into the board minutes at a following meeting. So that's where we are at this point.
Hartford, you had your hand up next.
I guess I have some questions I have, and they're fairly basic. Is through this process, where we are now in the design phase, what if at X point in time we're setting up say a committee or some outside group comes in with a great idea of how to utilize our old building, and because when we first submitted our Plancon, we did have the old building as a part of our project. When is like the drop dead date as far as submitting the schematic design for this project to the state as far as making changes to what's in Plancon E?
Well, we can make changes to the next phase that we would start working on would be Plancon F, which is the construction documents. Those are the actual bid documents that go out to bid. So we can continue to make changes or adjustments to the design, I mean, really up until the point where we go out to bid.
Just for the benefit of the board, however, would there be any fee implications from your perspective in the event the board were to reverse itself in terms of how this project looks down the road?
Well, certainly there would be fee implications depending where we are on the project. Right now, the original high school building is not part of the design. And I think we talked in a previous meeting about developing a committee that would look at the use of that building, and that whatever that determination is, that could become part of the project. So that would, if it's ready in time, it could be made part of the bid documents. If it's not, then it would have to be bid as a separate project. I don't know if that's what you're referencing.
Well, if it were ready in time, you're saying it would be a part of the bid documents, but I would assume before that we would have to do some design, correct?
For whatever use you determine that you would use that building for. That's correct.
Yep. But the longer, just to make it clear, the longer the board waits to make that determination if it was going to move forward on that basis, the more difficult it would be to get it into the original bid documents, and arguably the more costly in terms of design fees we'd have, because we'd have to potentially reverse ourselves. Is that a fair conclusion?
I don't think the cost would be more costly if you waited longer. Right now, I think the direction the board has taken is that the design that has been developed for the high school project is the design that we're presenting to the Department of Education. If the use that would be determined for the original building would be something other than the current design. If it goes back to where it becomes part of the high school design, then there would be some additional fees to change the design. I think that's what you're referring to.
That's what I was referring to. If that option were elected by the board, that there would be substantive cost attached to that.
That's correct.
And I think the board has to, my only purpose for saying that is that everybody has to understand moving forward that if that were to happen, there's going to be additional costs involved.
Sorry. Okay. It was Mr. Ruth was first and then you. Mrs. Yuroff and then Mr. Alcia. Mrs. Yuroff.
Just for clarification, the geothermal, are those the units that you're going to put in each classroom?
Yes, we went through a review today of a series of probably maybe 8 different systems, I believe, close to that, different types of systems for the building. We narrowed it down to 2 different geothermal type systems, one with individual units in the classrooms and one with larger units that would feed multiple classrooms. As we worked through that discussion today, it was the recommendation of the district staff that we go with a traditional geothermal system with a unit for each classroom.
That would be like Exeter. You did Exeter, you know what they have.
We did. I don't know that it would be exactly the same
But
design, but a similar process. They have a unit for each space in the building.
Right, thank you.
Okay, Mark, in regards to Plancon E, I don't want to assume anything. So the early on drawings showed the 1934 section demolished and a roadway put through there. The board, as I think you're aware, voted not to tear down any of the 1919 or 1934 section. So, again, I don't want to assume anything. Does Plancon E show that? That there's no roadway there?
The Plancon E drawings that we were working on at the time, since this change was just made recently, we had removed the section of the building. Since then, the board has made a motion not to remove that section of the building, so that section of the building has been reinstalled into the project. And the drawings that we will submit to the Department of Education will include the entire original building as part of the project. That's the direction that the board had voted to go.
Right, and directly related to that question then, so you're keeping the building, but there's certain sections in that previous schematics that also took away the HVAC systems, the support for that building. Has that been reinstalled? So
At this point in time, none of the existing structure has been removed. And I think at the last meeting that we talked about at a work session, we talked about several uses for that building and what would need to be done in order to maintain the LEED credentials, the LEED requirements for the project. depending on the use of the building, how you would have to do some separations of use if it's a different use classification. So until that's determined, we don't know exactly what goes into the design of the original high school building.
Okay, just to get that clear, so currently, according to the design that we have now, the 1934 structure is still being supported though with the heating and everything else from in our current designs.
Yes. Well, this is a design development drawing, so the entire mechanical system is not complete in this. We're not submitting to the department a complete set of working drawings. We're submitting a design development set of drawings, which is beyond the conceptual design, which is the schematics. This now, we looked at all the layouts, we looked at the science equipment, the mechanical systems, the material types in the building, but it is not a bid set of documents. What we will be moving into is the actual construction documents that will go out to bid is the next step. So there hasn't been detailed drawings produced on the project at this time. Everything to this point has been designs and different concepts for the project. And now we will be moving into the actual detailed drawings that will be put out to bid when the project goes out to bid.
Mr. Alcier?
Okay, just another question for clarification. So, as I understand it, changes can be made, I mean, technically up till you take bids, but obviously that can cause more costs. But you mentioned Plancon F as the next step, so changes can be made up till Plancon F.
Well,
For
we're
sure.
moving into Plancon F right now, and we really should determine the exact systems that are in the building and the exact design of the building at this point moving forward, so the drawings that we put together to go out to bid accurately reflect the design of the project the way you want it to be. So moving forward from the time we are moving forward now, we have to know exactly what we're doing with the project. So the clearer the direction we get from the board on what to do with the original high school project will be certainly more helpful in us developing what occurs with the mechanical systems, the fire separation wall, the lead requirements for the existing building that we discussed previously in the work session.
And then just, I don't have the timeline in front of me. What's the ETA on Plancon F? Roughly, do you remember?
October.
Is it October?
Yeah, September, around September, we were looking at finish it, going out to bid around September, October, going out to bid in October. That's what I was thinking, October. So that's when we would actually go out to bid.
So is it, if you want to call it a drop dead date, to finalize anything in regards to exactly what we'll move forward with input from the committee and the administration, we're talking October.
Actually, I was going to say I wouldn't wait until October.
Right.
October. If you want it filed by October, they'll need direction earlier, particularly if modifications need to be made. So I would not use October. If you want something filed as of October, you would need some lead time.
Well, on the project, on the design of the high school project that we're using for high school educational purposes, we need to have all those decisions made and put into the documents to go out to bid in October. We will be using the existing high school as classroom space and swing space into the year 2016 because we need that educational space while we renovate and add on to the high school. When we finish and we move into the new building, then that space will be available for renovations in the spring of 2016 for some other use in the district or other use in the community. We can do it at that point then, have that project go out to bid at that point and start construction in the spring of 2016 as a separate bid or as a supplemental contract. Or if we make a decision before October when we go out to bid and it gives us enough time to assemble a set of construction documents, we can put the entire project into one bid. So there's two different timelines. One, if you're ready to go by then, it can be in the original, in one bid. If not, it would have to be done as a separate bid.
If it were to be done as a separate bid, do you think the cost would be higher than the board doing it all as one bid?
We talked about this at a work session, and that's, clearly it would be nice if everything was bid in one project, because if we're using the same mechanical systems and everything in the project, it would be nice to have it all together. You know, a lot of that depends on the economy when you bid it, the amount of work that's out there, interest rates, all those things have an impact on construction costs. So it's hard to stand here today and talk about something several years from now and say, will the bids be higher or will they be lower? It's really hard to say. But ideally, it would be nice to have the entire project bid together and bid in phases.
Would that still be a separate phase?
Certainly, it would have to be a separate phase.
It would have to be a separate phase. So in terms of deployment and disruption on the educational campus, it won't make a big difference whether we do it separately in 2016 versus part of an originally bid phased project.
It would not make a difference because, like I said, we'll be using that high school as educational space until the spring of 2016. So the summer of 2016, that project would then be available to start construction, but not until then, because until then we have to use that space.
Mrs. Deerhoff, and then Dr. Christman.
Would you be submitting, I'm so confused, we're going so fast. Does that include the basement now, or we're still up in the air about the basement? The new basement you had in one of the plans. Is that up in the air, or?
No, that's actually shown on the documents, and we talked about that as an alternate bid to the project.
Okay, and how about the road that would come out, I guess, on, out here?
Monroe
It'll
Street
come out
connection.
onto Montgomery.
Okay, yeah.
Is that in?
Yeah, I believe that's a
Is that an
alternate bid. Yeah, we talked about that.
So we're
being an
gonna go
alternate
ahead
bid.
with putting more buses out in this little piece of road with a terrible intersection. Okay, and is the makeup rooms and stuff in for the, out in the art, music department, I guess that would be? Makeup rooms in there?
Yeah, the design drawings that we passed out
Right.
that show the layouts, that's
I don't
what
even have a makeup room in my house, but that's okay.
the design development drawings that we passed out in the set, I believe that you're referring to, are the actual drawings that are submitted to the state. And so there's no construction details in these drawings. They are actually the layouts that we work through with the high school departments and the staff, and that's what's reflected in the drawings that we distributed to the board.
And so you have like 8 collaboration rooms in these drawings, so they'll be in it, but they're not gonna be labeled, is that what you mean? Once they're labeled, is that what we're using them for?
Certainly the use of the spaces could change. That's based on the program requirements. As we work through the program, the way the rooms are labeled are based on the program. So, you know, one thing about education is, as I'm sure everyone knows, education changes, and what we call some of the rooms today, by the year 2016, there'll be other names on those rooms, or they may even be used for other uses. But based on the program requirements that we work through, that's the uses that were designated for the rooms in the building.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for me?
Okay, yeah, my question is, on the 28th of May, will we hear, I guess from at the curriculum committee meeting, more research that's been done concerning the academies? So I would like to hear that, because that would help determine if there's any changes or anything that would benefit the the drawings that are currently there. And then I go back to what, I think about what Mr. Sultanic asked, that it's going to mean more money to change if we want to. I know it's, initially it may not appear to be as much, but that concerns me, because we're not sure, I'm not sure, that some of the research that may be presented to us may alter the plan slightly. Now, this isn't an indication that I'm not in favor of the project. That's not it. It's this, at this point in time, for the information on academies, that to be sure. Because I looked at this and I saw 4 different areas, and the one area that just struck me was the science department. That once we make this move, it's not going to be as easy to just pull it back to where we said, well, we can just go, into a traditional. It can be partially traditional, but we're going to have science rooms, science rooms, science rooms here. Math can be anywhere. English can be spread out, but not science. So I would want to make sure that you're, because I've seen things where we go in a certain direction, not we as a district, just education. We go in a certain direction, and then the direction changes. And that was a concern, and it didn't dawn on me before, because I bought into this. Well, you can just make it 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. But what if we want to go and we want to move away from that academy structure? It might not be quite as easy with the science. So I want to, maybe during the research in 2 weeks, we might hear what that may mean. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Chrisman. Certainly good comments. And last week at the Facilities and Finance Committee meetings, there were also some very good comments from board members regarding that. I know Mrs. Woodard is working with Mrs. Simmons to pull together some information for the next curriculum committee. We'll continue to provide additional information and a good forum for discussions about the educational implications and instruction related to the academy, as well as other topics. But I know Mrs. Woodard is working on that based on some of those good comments and feedback that we received.
I don't know whose hand was up first. Mrs. Hartford, then
I want to be last.
you want to be last?
Let's change the subject.
Okay. Mrs. Hartford.
A question I have is, through this process as to where we are now, and you're saying the drop dead date for doing X, like say bid documents, the final drawings. There's nothing that I see that's cast in stone here that says that we have to follow that schedule. So that if we were to open this up as far as looking at what our other alternatives are for the old building, et cetera, and making it a part of this project, basically we wouldn't be expending more money externally unless we're calling upon those services. So my question is Plancon E is not putting us in a position to where we have to follow the bid or Plancon F, what you're shooting for now, that deadline. The question is, if you're moving forward with Plancon E, all right, Plancon F, you have a schedule set up currently that's been given to the board and a guideline and all of that. Nothing
says you have to go out to bid at that time.
Right, Plancon F could be done next year if we wanted to wait till next year.
That's correct. You could move forward, and if you determine what the use is for the original high school, and you want to make that part of the project, you could extend the bid date, the release date of the bid documents into January in order to complete the entire project and get it out to bid at the same time. So there's nothing in authorizing E to be submitted that requires you to go out to bid at a certain date. I believe that's your question.
Right. And the other question I have is, as the A, B, C, D, E, F, all of these are submitted to the state, at what point does the state come back and approve each section?
You get an approval letter from the state. There's a review. There will be just like A and B, there was a review with the department, and then you received an A and B approval letter that was entered into your board minutes. Once we have the D submission, and then the E requires a actual architectural review with the department, you'll receive a letter from them stating that those parts of Plancon were approved, and then that's entered into your board meeting minutes. So that would probably happen within the next 2 months or so. You would receive that approval letter.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Crossley?
I want to change. Seriously, we decided we're going to have a committee review the usage for the original building. I don't want to say old, the original building, because when you say old, it implies a lot of things.
We know, John.
But for the original building. Now, if this committee is going to get together and do some recommendations, do some proposals and some recommendations, my question is, what would be the deadline before Plancon F? Or would it be advisable for this committee to delay it until 2016? Their opinions. Is there a deadline or an appropriate date that we should be getting if we're going to include it in the project?
I can answer that, I think.
Okay, good.
I had board members volunteer to be on the committee, and I will be announcing that later on. And part of the task, it's considered an ad hoc committee, and part of their task will be to come up with their timeline as to how long they think it will take to gather the information that is required to make decisions on that. So that would be the first task of that committee, I believe, would be to come up with their deadline, and they'll be required to continually update the board. They'll be setting their meetings, and so it would be, I mean, they will have to determine how long they think it's going to take, because they're going to have to access the community, the staff, possibly other communities to find out what they've done with buildings, things like that.
Okay, then there really would not be an ideal target date.
Well, the board tonight could make a recommendation for that to that committee when they would like to have that come back. I did not feel that I had enough knowledge about
Well, that's
all
what I'm
those
trying to point out.
things.
Is there an ideal target date, or can it go on?
No, they'll have to complete their project, this project within a period of time.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mrs. Zero, you were next, and then Mr. Haas.
I don't know, I want to do something, but I guess I have to ask the solicitor how to do this. I want to, I know there's a motion on the table, but before that vote is taken, I want to put another motion on the table. Can I do that?
You can amend the motion. You always have the right to amend the motion.
They won't accept it probably.
Okay, well, that's the risk of making an amended motion.
Well, what I wanted to do is I'd like for a vote to be taken to stop this project now, immediately. Research it, revisit it, and rethink the whole project through. It's not needed now. We're going so fast. We got turned down our $2 million grant. We don't have road studies done. They're putting roads where I think is ridiculous. I personally feel is ridiculous. I'm only one person. And I don't think we need it. I said months and months ago that we should add on to elementary to Coverdale if that's where the problem was with the elementary schools being overcrowded. And I think we're going way, way too fast. I think this project should just sit for now. And I'd like to know what other board members feel, if they would vote on it, or how I'm supposed to do that.
Well, the way to do that is to vote no on this motion, because then we won't go to the next step on the Plancon process.
Mr. Sultanic, would it also be correct that she could also motion to table this motion?
She could also table this motion, and if there's a second, there would be no discussion on the motion to table, and if there's a majority of the board members who want to table it, it would be tabled. So those are the options you have available. I don't think a motion to stop the project would be an effective amendment of approving the motion that is currently on the table. But clearly, if we don't authorize the next step in the process, we're not going to engage in any design development of the project, and that would effectively halt the project.
Okay, then I guess I motion to table.
Second.
Okay. No, there's no discussion with table. Because right to a vote and a motion to table in the affirmative, a yes vote would mean that the motion itself would not move forward, and a no vote would mean that we would go back to voting on the underlying motion before you. So if you want to vote on the underlying motion, you vote no. If you want to stop the discussion on this particular next step in the process, you vote yes to this motion.
Mr. Elsier?
No.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes, absolutely.
Mrs. Hartford?
Yes.
Mrs. Usavich?
No.
Dr. Chrisman?
Yes.
Mr. Crossley?
No.
Mrs. Dira?
Definitely.
Mrs. Simmons?
No.
4-4, motion is not tabled.
So we return to the discussion on the underlying motion, because the motion to table was unsuccessful.
Still discussing
We're
it?
still discussing it. We can see if anybody has any more discussion on this motion or the recommendation from the administration.
I guess after all of the discussion that we've had on Plancon E, the way to look at Plancon E is that this is how we as a district wanted to move forward with the education for our students, and then our students are first in the curriculum piece of that. I believe our community met and we did a strategic comprehensive plan, all of those things. And I think the bottom line is this addresses the most students in the district initially. And I think if we go back to option 5, you'll look to see that the second phase of that option was the elementary school in Montgomery County. And then that would address that, but in the short term, we would be moving the 9th grade up to the high school, and that would be freeing up one set of unit classes in the elementary schools. So therefore, I think we have to look at moving ahead at this point and saying, yes, we approve of the project as a whole and the concept, but I will refrain from moving to F at this point, let's say, as to where we are in our schedule. And looking hopefully as a whole project, once again, including the 1920, 1934 buildings. Thank you.
I need to make a comment now. This project has been weighing very heavily on me as to the best thing to do. And I have to look at two things that I always look at when I vote for items on the agenda. The first I look at is, how does it benefit our students? And the second is, how does it impact upon our taxpayers? And when I looked at these projects in the beginning, I will be very honest, I wanted to build the elementary school because I felt that that was where the greatest need was, because I looked at Gilbertsville and New Hanover seeing the huge growth in that area. As I looked at this high school project, and I've been observing it and thinking about it, I realized that the whole project is going to impact more students in our district than that little elementary school would. That would have impacted, it was going to be 500 students. This high school will impact many more students and lives as we move forward. Then I looked at the cost. The cost is a lot. It's a lot of money to build a high school. It's also an investment in the future of our young people in the district, in my mind. So I looked at that in terms of, as a taxpayer, the money is being given from me to benefit more lives in the end with this high school project, which is why I can look at it and move ahead on the concept that was developed from a large portion of the community, the staff and the administration, when they looked at the comprehensive plan. This is what we need to do for our young people in this district. This is our plan, and it matches that plan. So that makes a lot of sense to me. It's very logical to me that you move forward with this kind of building. The stickling point for me is the part with the old building, how we maintain that, we respect the history in this district, and we utilize it to the best possible ability for everyone. So I voted to continue to move forward in this project based on those observations that I've made, and I've struggled over how to look at the project and how it's going to impact everyone. And I think the high school will have a greater impact and a bigger bang for our dollars as taxpayers in the end. Because I do believe there is growth, and it's going to hit us. And we'll be prepared with this project. Mrs. Hugh Savage.
I'm okay to move forward with Plancon E tonight based on what I heard tonight. And what I heard was, even though there's some things in there that we as a board haven't decided yet, like the HVAC system or the OSIP insurance, and even though we haven't decided what to do with the old building, there's nothing precluding us from changing those ideas up until we're ready to bid. And then as far as the pace of the project goes, we can control that. So we can delay F. So if, for example, we're moving forward and coming close to something, some idea to recommend regarding the old building use, and we're getting close, but we're not going to be there in time for the target bid date, we can push that bid date out as a board. So I'm seeing flexibility in the timelines, and I'm seeing flexibility in what it currently says. So please correct me if I'm wrong in my understanding, but that's what I heard tonight and made me more comfortable with this Plancon E. Mr. Haas?
Oh, one of the things I always think that is interesting that's missing, Mr. Sultanic always says that if we're going to be expending money, that we have to have a 5-4 vote. It seems like we're just approving.
We don't need to have a 5, we need at least 5.
5-4 to go ahead.
We're very good at getting 5-4 votes.
However,
Or 4-4
we're
votes
4-4 or 4-5. However, in this situation, there's a lot of words down, but there's not that there's money tied to it. There's lots of money tied to just filing papers, and that money part is missing. And once you go through with that step then, and change everything, there's going to be more money. And that's why I would like for it to stop now and get all together. Apparently we're not all together, because on one motion it's 4-4. We actually had that part demolished in one part of the membership meeting, and it wasn't until the public came forward to save that building. I think that there's too much in the building. It's not just educational design, but there's way too much in the building. I think this whole process is going way too fast. We don't seem like we understand the academy approach yet, but that seems to be not a cornerstone, architecturally speaking, but a major part of that building, and I think it's too costly for what we need. I'm completely against it. I want it to stop.
Mrs. Darrow?
The reason I brought it up, and to answer your question, Don, flexibility costs money, a lot of money. Since we don't have positive figures on the academies, the school I think that was visited, I didn't get there, get along or whatever. I think in fact their scores went down instead of up after they had the academy started. And as I said before, since we're so, I was going to say a word but I had a curse and I won't say it. Since we're so bent on having the academies, and then as I said before, why don't we take the old building and make an academy there and try it? It's not going to cost us $55 million to see what the academy approach does in Boyertown and see what kind of scores we get using that approach. I positively, we're going fast, nobody knows what this hand's doing versus this one. Everybody at this table wants something different. I don't know how we're all gonna get together. Every meeting we have the architect do something else, which is costing us a lot of money. And now we're even talking about, well, maybe do something else. We have gonna form a committee to see what to do with the old school, the elder school. And who knows what that's gonna turn out. I think we're going way, way too fast, and that's why I said what I did prior to that, and we're spending an awful lot of money here that I don't think would have had to be spent, and we're continuing to do so. Thank you.
Dr. Chrisman?
Okay, I have a question for Mark. Mark, with the, like, let's say we would delay this portion, because right now, if we say go ahead, you're gonna, we'll pay you, you'll go, full speed ahead to make those design drawings that will go out for bids. What effect will this, let's say if we say no to Plancon E, what effect would that have on the grant possibility?
Well, they won't give you a grant if you're not doing a project.
Okay, but so there's still money there, but it's kind of a revolving type situation where as long as there's money there, it becomes available. However, the longer it goes out, perhaps there may not be.
Yeah, I have no idea how long the money will
understand.
be available with the grant. I mean, we were on the list the last time, and the other high-performance buildings were approved, but this project wasn't, I think, due to the concern that the project wasn't moving forward. So I think we find ourselves in the same situation, and we're up again for the next round of the grant, but if you don't go forward with the Plancon, certainly you're not going to be eligible for the grant. Now we can, we can submit E. E is complete, so there's no additional cost to the board to submit E to the Department of Education. The question is, are you going to move forward with F, if I'm correct, Mr. Solicitor? There's two issues here. One is submitting E to the Department of Education, and then the other, I think the resolution says move forward with F. At that point, you could then decide how fast you want to move forward with F, or if you want to wait for the report on the academies. But I know we're working with other school districts around the state that are, and we're doing high school projects, and there's a number of school districts that are moving forward with the academy approach. I mean, it is a very strong academic model at this point in time. Now, I'm not a principal of a high school. I'm not a superintendent of schools, but there's a lot of school districts that are proceeding with that model at the high school level.
But the thing, the thing is, a lot. I don't know how many. See, that's what we need to hear. Because right now, the only one I heard was from York. But
that one has been.
And that's
completed.
been in existence.
That's been in existence, but there. But I can get you a list of the,
well, it wouldn't
the
be,
schools
I think
that are
that's
in
why I was waiting, like, to hear from the research and from that piece, just in case there needs to be some alteration to what is currently in the design.
I can help put together a list of districts in the state that are looking at moving in that direction. Then I know the number of high school proposals that we're getting in our firm that we're submitting on, they're all academy models at the high school level. So everybody that seems to be moving forward with either a new high school or renovation is looking at the academy model. So there's something, there's a movement in that direction. But I guess there's some figures that you need to address that.
So my understanding is if we don't move forward with this tonight and we don't vote to go ahead, then we lose the possibility of that $2 million grant?
I really can't speak to that, but I think the grant is for the grant is for projects that are moving forward. It's for economic development in the state, and the category that we applied for was under high-performance buildings. So there was, two criteria. One is clearly they want to give you the grant to help stimulate the economy. So we qualified for a $2 million grant, and one of the requirements was that the building was a high-performance building, meaning that it would use either alternative energy sources or it would use a very low amount of energy, and it would set an example for the public in the state of Pennsylvania as to high-performance design. That's what the design or the application was for. And we did receive that for 5 other projects. So were submitted at the same time.
In all fairness, Mr. Chrisman, when we built East with the open room concept, there was a lot of schools building that too, and look what happened. There was a lot of schools went that way, and they all changed after a couple of years because that wasn't a very good design, apparently. So I'm not interested in what the other schools are doing. I'm interested in statistics of what the scores are like, because that's what counts when you the children. I don't care where they learn it. I mean, I want clean, decent, safe rooms, but that's not going to make the scores go up, I don't think.
Then we need to find schools that are like our schools, not as opposite as yours would be in comparison to Boyertown. It's a very different setting. Yes, Dr. Chrisman.
The reason I struggle is not so much the academy. It's like I said, all of a sudden the science. I wish it would have been presented initially that you can't just make everything back the way it is now, where you would have departments together. And I'm not saying we go that way. The academy structure is separating, spreading them out, and I go back to the science thing. So I'm looking at this saying, okay, with the open classrooms, they just go put some walls in, and we make them back to regular rows. So life goes on. With the academy approach, if we do this, then, and I understand, I like the fact that before we get to F, we can make changes, but we have to understand it will cost us some money to do that. So if down the road, it's not right here 2 students, and I think everybody sitting around this table, we all, and even the audience, they're here for these young people. That's why we're here. I just want to make sure that what we're doing is going to give the students who are excelling a chance to excel more, the students who struggle a chance to go up, everybody being able to bump up. That we really raise the ceiling as well as raise the floor in this thing. And that's why, that's why I'm struggling with this, because in a sense I want to slow it up, but I don't want to lose the 2 million possibility with the geothermal. That's why this isn't it isn't that I'm taking a position where he isn't that concerned about the children, the students. No, that's not the case. We haven't had a lot of information, and I understand it's new. The academy structure is new. But that's why I'm hesitant, because of just more information. And I probably don't know how I'm going to vote until it's my turn to say yes or no on this.
Okay, so there is one more comment. Mr. Crossley.
Yeah, tonight I've heard several conversations about moving fast. And I believe that when you start late, you're going to have to move fast. And since I'm on the board, we redistrict twice because of population growth. And that should have been our first sign to say, let's get doing something that's more permanent. And I know we're moving fast, but I think it's necessary because we started late.
Mr. Alcier.
I guess a chance to weigh in here. So the way I see this, and have seen it from the get-go pretty much, is the option 5 that we looked at, my gosh, maybe a year ago now. It's very clear to me. I thought it was well thought out, and I know sometimes it's hard to grasp that if the population is bulging in the elementary schools, how does doing the high school impact that? Mrs. Simmons mentioned part of the thinking was it does impact to the positive many students throughout the district. It also puts the district in a position, possibly, in the future, possibly, if budgets allow, to go to like a full-day kindergarten. Research has shown that full-day kindergarten academically is very beneficial to the students. And my research at a seminar I went to, we're the only school district in Berks County that does not have full-day kindergarten. So that was also part of the thought process. Doesn't mean we will go, it just, for future boards, whoever they might be on the board, depending on budgets and state funding and all that stuff, it put us in a better position to possibly do that. The other phases of our Plancon submission are, and I've said it at other meetings, are optional. And again, I think it put future boards, whoever they might be, in a position that if the growth is taking off even more than we thought, we have the project submitted, because there's a moratorium. So we got it in before that deadline to build a new elementary school and address that ever-increasing population. If the population does not pan out, as some of the projections show, we're still okay, and we may never build that new elementary school on the east side. So I think I'm still a proponent of the hardware, so to speak, of the project. It fits in with our strategic plan academically in the high school, bringing the 9th grade that is high school curriculum to the physical building of the high school. I will admit, and I've said this at other meetings personally, and I'm only one, I think Dr. Chrisman brings up some points. Somewhere out of left field, at least in my perception, was this academy concept. I'm not saying it's wrong, I'm not saying it's right, but that kind of came out of left field a little bit for me, and I too would like to see more data on that. But again, I don't think, from everything I'm hearing and understanding, it doesn't lock us into the academies. And from other meetings when I've asked the question, if need be, we could still make it into a 9th grade wing, so to speak, a 10th grade wing, 11th grade wing, 12th grade wing. So we have that flexibility as opposed to 4 academies. And I think we're going the right road by keeping the 1919 and 1934 sections. And I'm confident that this team or committee that will come together will come up with some very creative ideas on how to make good use of that for the community and for the district. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. The other piece of this is it allowed us to alleviate some of the problems with the elementary schools on the east side sooner. A new elementary school, besides costing the district on its annual operating budget significant dollars, with teachers, administrators, nurses, administrative support, more custodians on our labor line, you know, it would have taken longer, was what the thought was, what I recall. Probably would have been 4, maybe plus years to go through the process of building a new elementary school. So this also put us in a better position sooner to address this this overpopulation. So that's kind of where I'm at, but I'm confident that as long as we can still make changes up to a certain point, we're good to go. Thank you.
I'm thinking all the board members are done with comments now. We can vote. I'm sorry, I missed it, Bob. Mr. Haas, go ahead.
One of the puzzles now is when we attempted to table the motion, we had a 4-4 vote. If we would have went ahead with the original motion at that time, it seemed like we wouldn't have enough people to go through with the motion. So I'm still kind of wondering how people are going through all this thought process when they're sharing information. I still think it goes back to those two things, that we're going too fast. I think it's too much, and I think this overall project's too costly. It's not the solution that we need. So I would really love to hear those same 4 votes again and no against this project. Call the question.
Thank you.
Question?
Mrs. Deeroff.
Okay, now tell me, how do I vote to say no? I don't want to do this, just say no.
Yes.
Okay, because I'm all confused now. No.
It's not a trick question.
I want to be sure.
Mr. Alcier.
Yes.
Mr. Hawes.
No.
Mrs. Hartford.
Yes.
Mrs. Usavich.
Yes.
Dr. Crispin.
Yes.
Mr. Crossley.
Yes.
Mrs. Simmons.
Yes.
6-2, motion passes.
Item number 4